muted. Hey,
Oh!
I think y'all can hear us now. Sorry about that. Our
Happy
mic is
Monday.
unmuted. Let's just try this
Yeah.
again. Happy Monday.
Woo!
Welcome
We're glad you're here.
to the For Monday podcast. Off to an amazing start. So excited for all of you joining us here live. Go ahead and say something in the comments. Let us know that you're watching. We're just so glad that you're here.
And if you're watching live on YouTube, make sure to like and hit that subscribe button. I'm going to remind you every single week. You don't want to forget.
Absolutely. You want to hit that subscribe button because you'll get first access to all the content that's being released here every week at Canvas. It's not just a Sunday teaching anymore.
No, it's every day.
It's so much more. We have things every day, clips and resources that I think will encourage you throughout the week. Whether you join us in person or whether you watch us online, the best way to stay connected to everything happening here is YouTube.
I've liked and I've subscribed.
Yeah, I've liked my own videos and your videos, mostly your videos. But so go ahead and hit that subscribe button and let us say something in the comments. I see you, Lucas. All right, you said anyone else having trouble hearing, but now you can hear it. So that is good. I got a little nervous. Yeah, I just forgot to hit the unmute button. Just so excited to talk to everybody. But hey, also something you can do for those who are listening to us later on the podcast is you can leave a 5-star review, not a 1 or 2 or 3 or 4-star, a 5-star review. Leave it there on Yelp. I think on Apple Podcasts, you can actually like leave a verbal review, like you can leave a comment. So leave a comment. Tell people what you love about the podcast so that those who find the podcast will be intrigued and will subscribe for themselves. So make sure to do that. You can listen to this wherever you subscribe to podcasts. But yeah, show some love and subscribe and leave some reviews. So I also want to celebrate, Jenna. We officially crossed that 100 download mark. So big celebration.
Oh, that's so cool.
Excited about that. So for all those who are listening, who are sharing, who are spreading the word about this, it's so cool to see so many people listening to the For Monday podcast. So yes, thank you.
So cool. I feel like we're a part of such a bigger community. That's so fun.
I think so. I think it's just awesome what technology can do, how it could bring us together. I mean, we get emails from people in different areas of the Bay Area. Some people watch from Arizona, people around the country. Costa Rica last week. So I just love that technology allows us to come together. Hey, if you're jumping online and you're watching right now, go ahead and say hi in the chat. Leave us a comment. We might throw it up on the screen.
We definitely want to
shout you out. But today I'm really excited about our conversation. We're going to continue our conversation on the Future Church series that we've been in. But before we do that, I wanted to take a second and just share some good news.
Ooh, I love good news.
Which is good because, right, if you watch the news nowadays, it's just bad news. Bad news sells.
When was the last? It in doses.
Yeah, you really do. I mean, you got to control your intake because it just seems like bad news sells. It's everywhere. And it's not that we ignore bad news, but you know what? We need some good news too. We need to like actually celebrate when good news happens.
Ooh, okay,
Giselle, I see you. What's going on? Welcome to the For Monday podcast. But here's the good news. Here's the good news. But first, before we do the good news, we got to do a giveaway.
Oh, yes.
And it's connected to the good news, the kind of cool story that I want to share. So if you're watching right now, we want to do a giveaway. We're going to give away an Equator Coffee gift card. And if you're from outside the Bay Area and you get this right, we'll send you a gift card or beans. Yeah, that's a good idea. We'll send you beans in the mail, coffee beans, not like pinto beans or black beans.
Maybe.
I mean, if you want a can of pinto beans, we will send that to you. But we were thinking coffee beans we'll send you in the mail. But if you're in the Bay Area, we will send you an Equator gift card. But
Equator's so good.
Here's how the competition will go. I'm going to play a song on here at the podcast. I'm going to play a song, and the first person to identify what this song is, where it comes from, you got to shout it out in the comments where you think this song comes from. We'll send you either a bag of beans or an Equator gift card. All right. Are you ready, Jenna?
I'm like nervous. I don't know what this is.
If you figure it out, you can't shout it out because you can't like.
Oh, that's going to be so hard for me.
Yeah, you can't cheat. All right. So if you hear it, if you know what the song is, then shout it out in the comments.
Ooh,
and the first one who gets it right, will get an Equator gift card. So I'm going to go ahead and play this. Go ahead.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm getting serious. This is like From Stranger Things. Is it Eddie's song from Stranger Things?
It's close. Come on, somebody. Put it in the comments.
Oh my gosh.
I don't know if anyone's going to know. Here's a big hint.
Oh! I can't believe I didn't recognize the first part. Did anybody get it?
No, I don't. Oh, okay. We got a winner.
Woo! Who is it?
We got a winner, and it is Lucas. Lucas. Good job, man. You are correct. Hard. That was the theme song from Power Rangers.
I haven't heard that in so long, but I'm kind of ashamed I didn't recognize the first part.
I used to love Power Rangers. Yeah. I think there was this kind of tension, though, right? There was Power Rangers, and then there was VR Troopers. Do you remember VR Troopers?
I never watched that.
Yeah,
I was Power Ranger.
Yeah, it was Power Rangers all day.
Yellow Power Ranger. Yep. I just wanted to be her.
Yellow Power Ranger. Yep. Well, then you're going to like this next story that I'm going to share. So I just read this earlier today, actually. I thought, man, this is actually a cool story that I got to share. So apparently on the 14th of October, so just a couple of days ago in Oakland, at a, I believe it's like a ramen restaurant, something crazy happened. All of a sudden, this woman runs into the restaurant and she's scared and she's yelling and she's saying some guy is attacking her.
Oh, no.
Yeah, obviously it sounds like, a bad story, but it gets really good. Trust me. So all of a sudden, it just so happened that the workers at this restaurant were all dressed up as Power Rangers. So they were all dressed up as Power Rangers. The workers were dressed up as Power Rangers. And this man who was attacking this woman ran into the restaurant to attack her. Yeah. And all of a sudden, these workers, all dressed up as Power Rangers, start fighting this guy, and they completely take him out.
Really?
There's this quote that this person was like live tweeting as this whole thing was happening, which is so America. But
they weren't helping.
But she said this in the tweet: once the woman had expressed she wasn't safe and she didn't want to go home with this man who was chokeholding her.
My gosh.
Which is weird. It's like, duh. Of course she doesn't want to go home with the guy who's choking her. The Black Power Ranger and the Yellow Ranger. Come on, somebody. The Yellow Ranger told the man to leave. And then the man who was attacking the woman, he swung at the Power Rangers, and all of the Power Ranger workers, they all yelled Huey. I don't know why. They all yelled Huey, and all of them ganged up on this guy.
Oh my gosh.
And took him down and held him there until the police came, and the police obviously arrested him.
Oh my gosh.
I thought that is just crazy.
First of all, I'm so sorry that happened to that woman. That is terrifying.
Yeah, it's pretty terrible. Yeah.
But I can't help but think of the person who was attacking her being like, the Power Rangers are taking me out right now.
Yeah, I had to believe that he ran into that restaurant and be like, what the heck?
That's like the last thing you expect to happen.
The freaking Power Rangers are here.
You know what? Good for that. That's actually pretty cool.
Yeah, I want to go to this restaurant now. I want to meet the Power Rangers at this restaurant.
They're like the real Power Rangers.
In Oakland, but it's always good to see people, protecting one another and stepping in. And when you do it as a Power Ranger, it's just that much cooler.
That is, I did not expect that story. That is wild.
I thought it was awesome. But Lucas, you get the gift card. We will send it to you in the mail. Equator Coffee. We hope you enjoy it. And we hope that all of you who are listening heard a little good news. At least it made you smile. Made me smile to hear about the Power Rangers. The Power Rangers are back, baby. And they are in Oakland. Power Rangers are in Oakland.
I love it so much. I want to go to this restaurant now.
Yeah, I can't wait to go. So awesome. Well, I guess today we want to spend some time talking about, of course, the message a little bit. But I want to spend a little time also talking about the Bay Area Exodus.
Oh.
The best what?
I thought you were just going to say the Bay Area. And I was like, the best.
Well, the Bay Area is the best. I'm sorry if you're listening to this and you're not from the Bay Area. I'm
just
sorry.
know it is the best.
The Bay Area is the best. San Francisco is the best, hands down.
Yeah, except the Exodus.
Don't DM me. Don't at me. It is the best place ever.
West Coast, Best Coast.
But I mean, it's really been experiencing sort of a transformation. And if you're watching with us today, then you've probably experienced this. There's been sort of this over the last couple of years as we've navigated the pandemic. What has now been known or termed the Bay Area Exodus. And I read this article from SF Gate the other day that said more people want to leave San Francisco than any other city in the country right now, according to at least one survey. And according to the survey, 8% of the city's population of San Francisco plan on moving to a different city. And 18% of residents in San Francisco metro area plan on moving from their home the next year.
18%?
18%
okay.
moving from their home in the next year. 8% moving to a completely different city.
Okay, well, first of all, I'm okay with 18%. It feels a lot higher at times, but that's not too bad.
I mean, it's hard though, right? Like it's hard to see these people leave and to see so much transformation, and it's part of living in the city, I think. And if you've lived in San Francisco for a while, then you've experienced this friends coming and then friends going.
Absolutely.
It's one of the harder things about living long term, at least in San Francisco.
Yeah, we've been here 10 years, and I feel like around year probably 5 is when we really got a good taste of the first wave anyway.
Yeah. I mean, I think we found that the average person lives in San Francisco 2.5, 3 years, and then they cycle out. It seems to be about how long the wave is. And of course, new people come when people leave. But I'd be curious though. I just want to have a conversation. If you're listening and want to leave a comment and join us, we'd love to hear that. But as followers of Jesus here in San Francisco, I guess the first group I'll talk about is like those who feel a particular calling to San Francisco. And that's not everybody, and that's okay. But like those who feel like, man, I want to be a part of what God is doing in San Francisco for the long haul. What's it going to take? What do you see as being important for a follower of Jesus in a city like San Francisco? Like, what does it actually look like to root yourself in this city? I don't know if you have any thoughts, Jena.
Yeah. Well, the first thing that came to mind is you kind of have to manage your expectations. What you expect from the city, what you expect your life to look like.
Yeah.
I feel like if you have this white picket fence dream, it's going to look different here.
Yeah.
Which is also exciting because it's not going to look like everywhere else.
Yeah.
So I feel like managing your expectations, and I also think fully taking advantage of what the city has to offer regularly. Like there's a reason why this is a city and it's full of creativity and art. And if you're not taking advantage of that regularly, I could see how it could grind you down a little bit more.
Yeah.
That was the first things that came to mind.
Yeah, for sure. No, I think those are all really good points, especially the managing your expectations here in San Francisco. Like San Francisco, as beautiful as a city is, as great as a city is, as it is, it can have the ability to grind you down.
Yeah.
And so just being honest about that, not having a fairy tale vision of your relationship with San Francisco, I think is really, really important. And just understanding like that friendships will come and go and they will change, and you'll kind of, you could get apathetic to that. I think, like you could get jaded even where you see people leave. I see what you said, Giselle. You said, I don't invest in friendships anymore. It's sad, but true. And
it's very tempting to do.
Yeah, I definitely understand that. Living in San Francisco, it can feel like, well, why should I even invest in this friendship if they're going to leave in a couple years? And that is absolutely understandably hard. So having that like realistic expectation of the cost, and Jesus says, a builder doesn't build the house or a home without counting the cost. And I think when it comes to saying, hey, I want to like commit to San Francisco and what God is doing in San Francisco, counting the cost of what it's going to take and what that actually means for you to be here for the long haul is a really important conversation.
I also think it's important to have a getaway spot. Like where you get
outside the city or in?
Outside the city.
Okay.
I think it's important to take a break from the city. At least I hear that regularly from people. Like a lot of people go to Napa or Tahoe. Ours is Santa Cruz. Like having those moments where you kind of breathe. There's space for a minute.
Yeah.
I think is really important.
Yeah, I think that's true. That's true. I think, you got to have your place you can breathe, because you don't really realize the pace of San Francisco until you get out of it.
Or just even the congestion.
Yeah, just the noise, the congestion, the pace, all of that. And San Francisco is interesting because like New York, you go there and I feel like at least when I went there, you feel the pace, you feel the the congestion. It's very loud.
Yeah, but San Francisco, it feels kind of sneaky. It sneaks up on
you. It's like it's kind of under the radar. But then the best example I can think of is like Christmas week, when everybody leaves the city the week of Christmas.
Spots everywhere.
You park everywhere. It's quiet. It's everyone's like
so
way
nice.
More chill, and you realize, man, there's this city moves at a pretty fast pace,
and there's so many people.
And it's good for your soul to get out of that. Yeah. It's good. I think it's good, even if you don't live in San Francisco, you live in, I don't know, Mesa, Arizona. I know we got some people listening from there or wherever you live. It's like, it's good to get out.
Yeah.
It's good to just like have a place that's like a sacred space to where your soul can just rest.
Yeah, outside your normal routine and your habits and even your comfort zone.
Yeah, absolutely. But I think coming back to that conversation of San Francisco and like, what is it going to take if you're going to be here for the long haul? I do think you do have to change your perspective in the sense that I think a lot of people, they come to San Francisco to get what they want from San Francisco.
Yes.
Right. And I'm here to get what I want. It's that gold rush mentality that, was at the origin of San Francisco, that people are coming here looking to strike gold. It's just, people aren't looking for gold. It's the new gold is tech or whatever, and instead of saying, what can I give to this city? They're going, what can I get?
Absolutely.
And I think if you want to be here for the long haul, your mentality does need to shift from what can I get to what can I give? And you'll get a lot from the city.
Absolutely.
But at the same time, like, it's just so hard here sometimes that if you're not entering into this with a posture of generosity, instead you're entering into it with what am I going to get out of it?
Oh, that's so good.
Then as soon as it stops giving to you and the shine wears off, because the shine will wear off.
Yes.
Except the Golden Gate Bridge. I feel like the Golden Gate Bridge has not gotten old to me yet.
That's true. Every time we drive it every single day, and it's always, I'm just like, wow.
Yeah, I see it. I'm like, this is absolutely amazing. Yeah. But at the same time, some of the things that were so great when we first moved here, it's like cool, but it's not, the shine wears off.
Yeah.
So if you want to be here for the long haul, you really, 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 really got to change your mentality from what can I get to what can I give?
Well, and that alone, imagine if we all did that. Everyone who lives here currently, what can I give to this city? Our city would look so different.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
I can't even begin to imagine how different it would look if we all had that mentality.
Mm-hmm.
What can I give to the city? How can I invest in it and not just take?
Yep. Absolutely. And Kurt, good to know that you agree that it never gets old, that Golden Gate Bridge.
Yeah.
It's just beautiful. I think maybe the last thought I would have, if you want to be here for the long haul, and this kind of goes into counting the cost, but I think maybe another aspect of it is just like the American dream of buying a big home and backyard and all that, like, the white picket fence, it just changes here, and you have to recalibrate those expectations.
Yeah.
And I mean, unless you like strike gold and you're able to do that, which awesome. We're really happy for you and slightly jealous, but like for most people to be here for the long haul, like you almost have to just see the city as your backyard.
Oh yeah.
And you probably aren't going to get a white picket fence because there's some
I don't know if I've ever seen it.
I don't know.
I'm sure.
But yeah, I think you just got to recalibrate those expectations. There's going to be some rough edges always to the city. It's going to evolve and transform all of the time. But being in the city for the long haul is not for everybody.
Right. And I think for those who know that, they know they're not going to be there.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people actually do that.
Yeah.
They come in thinking a few years and then I'm going back home or whatever. I would say be here while you're here.
Right. If they're here. Right. Because the question is like, if you're not planning on being here forever, but you still do love the city and want to leave it better than how you found it, like, what does that actually look like? So for those of you who are watching, you're like, hey, I don't want to like grow old in San Francisco, but like, I'm going to be here for, I don't know, 2, 5, maybe 10 years, something like that. Like, how do you practice being in this city and loving this city well and leaving it better than how you found it? Which you just said, like, be here.
Yeah.
Can you expand on that? Like, what does that actually mean?
Yeah. I think instead of constantly being like, oh, only a year, only 2 years, always thinking back home, take advantage of the time that you are here and invest in friendships, even though I know it is really hard if you know people are going to leave or yourself is going to leave because you don't know where those friendships are going to take you later on in life.
Yeah.
Invest in the city because, again, you don't know what lasting impact you can have by doing that.
Yeah.
Like, truly, we can, I think, change and make the city flourish by being here and investing in it, even if you know it's only going to be for a year.
Yeah, absolutely. Because I also think, like, if you go a couple years, 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, and you didn't ever really invest, especially in community, if you were somewhere for 3, 4 years and you just, because you sort of anticipated you were going to be leaving or you saw a lot of people leave and you never opened up your life to anybody, like, that's a long time to starve your soul of a key ingredient it needs to thrive. Like, community is like protein for the soul. Like, you need it to be strong in your life and to live well. And And to go that long without meaningful community and not invest is, you're actually hurting yourself. Like, you're gonna be paying you're like, "Well, I'll get that when I move somewhere else I'm more rooted," but you're gonna be, like, at a deficit when you go there.
And you might not even know how to do it by the time that happens.
Yeah, you may not, and the truth of the matter is too, it's like, I mean, we've had a lot of friends move, we've said that already, but what's awesome is a lot of these friends, we just had a reunion with our group of friends that majority have left the city, not all, but most have left the city, and yet they are still some of our dearest friends, and those relationships have been able to withstand the test of time and location.
And not all of them will, but there will be some that do last the test of time.
They will, but, the way you'll never find those relationships is if you never open up.
Yeah. Well, and you don't know who needs you.
Right. Again, it's like while you're here still thinking, what can I give, not what can I get?
Yeah, which it's so hard to do.
Yeah, you gotta, but while you're here, it's like, how can you show up? Well, show up and be willing to connect and grow in community with others. But you also mentioned like investing in the city, being a part of it. I'm a big fan of finding one nonprofit or organization that you really love, that you really support, and just committing to them. Like, I know you could commit to 20 things and that might like look cool on paper or whatever, but I really think it's, if you want more like a more long-term impact, as someone who works for a nonprofit, I can tell you, like, the people who say, I'm going to give you not 10% of my attention, but 100% of it, a greater, deeper investment, that goes further.
Absolutely.
It goes further. And so other organizations, I would say find one, find two, maybe.
I didn't even just say one.
One or two. I mean, whatever. The point being, go deep in those organizations and give more so that when you leave, your giving outlives you.
Well, and how cool that you are a part of something so much bigger than yourself and that you are truly helping an organization move their mission forward. How cool that you can look back and say that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And there's so many great organizations in San Francisco to be a part of, Because Justice Matters is a great organization. City Impact, Mobilize Love.
I just learned about one called Hamilton Families, which I'm super excited to get to know more.
What do they do?
They help like homeless families in the city, like specifically people who are homeless with children.
Yeah. So you have organizations like that. You have Miracle Messages who are reuniting homeless men and women to their families and loved ones.
Even Boys and Girls Club.
Like, find where you can make a difference and just plant yourself there.
Yeah, I love that.
Be a part of flourishing the city, not just taking from it, but like saying, I'm going to invest in it. And I'm not going to be here forever, but I'm going to leave it better than how I found it. And all of us have the ability to leave San Francisco better than how we found it. Hey, if you know any good organizations in San Francisco, if you live in the city, let us know in the comments. We'd love to highlight that. But it can be discouraging at times to see things like this, the Bay Area exodus. I do think it's just, again, the nature of a city like this. It will be at times a revolving door because of the cost, because of crime, because of a variety of reasons, family, how hard it is to raise a family at times in San Francisco. Like, we totally get it. And some people are called to stay, and some people, the way I phrase it, some people are called to San Francisco and some people are called through San Francisco, but both people are called.
Absolutely.
Right. So I would say, if we end on that note, like, you may be called to San Francisco, you might be called through San Francisco, but both of you are called.
Absolutely.
And so what does it mean to step into that calling? What does it mean to flourish this city? What does it mean to enter into the city each and every day? Show up saying, what can I give, not what am I going to get?
But I can also guarantee you, when you come in with that mindset, what can I give? You are going to get a whole lot in return.
Yeah, it's funny how that works, right? It's funny how
we forget it. It's easy, but you will get a lot in return.
Absolutely. It's I don't know if paradox is the right word, but it's sort of the paradox of generosity that, at least according to the kingdom of God, like, a generous life is a wealthy life. Like, the more you give, the more you keep. The richest people I know don't have a lot of money. Yeah. They're just really, really generous. Yeah. And so what does it look like for us to be a generous people in San Francisco? Because there's plenty of gold miners in San Francisco, right? We don't need any more gold miners. Not to say it's wrong to pursue your dream or to want to be successful. That's not what we're saying at all, but it's to what ends? Like, what is the outcome that you're hoping to get? Just to make money for your own gain, or fame for your own gain, or is it to actually like flourish this city? And I think the church, especially as followers of Jesus, we should want to flourish wherever we are.
Absolutely. Right? That's what we're called to do.
Yeah. Flourish wherever you are. This is like, Christians should always elevate the room they step into. Right? Christians should always elevate the community. Christians should always elevate the conversation. I'm not sure if we always do that, but I do believe like when the church shows up, things should get better in theory, right? Because you look at Jesus, wherever Jesus went, things got better.
Yep.
Like, I mean, yeah, sure. He had some haters, and we're not to say like Jesus didn't always like create peace where he went necessarily, but the lives of those who were in need, the oppressed, those on the margins, like those were being crushed. Like wherever Jesus went, he flourished those who were there. Absolutely. And it's a good thing when the church does that. And we're all called to do that. Yep. So
I love that.
Yeah.
Even though that started as a sad thing, I'm glad we talked about that.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. It reminds me why we're here. And if you're listening, hopefully it reminds you why you're here.
Absolutely.
And encourages you to keep being called.
Yep.
Keep being called, because you are called to be a part of flourishing this city while you're here. If it's forever, great. If it's only for a few years, I guess that's okay too.
So. It is the best city though.
Absolutely.
So frustrating, but so wonderful.
Absolutely.
Same time.
Yeah. Well, so we're in the series Future Church, and it's been a really great series. We wrapped it up yesterday. Last week or last conversation. Not that we're never going to talk about the future church ever again. We will definitely continue the conversation.
Absolutely. I feel like it just set the baseline for what's to come.
Yeah, it's a talk that hopefully starts many talks.
Yes.
I think this is an ongoing conversation. If you're going to be a church or a person that prioritizes the future, then you're always talking about what's coming.
Yeah.
Right. And it's not to say you don't celebrate what's happening now, but you always kind of say, I wonder what's happening next. Yeah. You always kind of live with this posture of anticipation, like what's coming.
Yeah.
And I don't want to live in a way that like is apathetic instead of anticipatory, right? Yeah. Like I don't want to live just be like, hey, this is as good as it gets. I want to be the kind of person that is always anticipating like something better could be happening.
Yeah, and that's what you said on Sunday. Apathetic people will not create the future.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And so I would love to hear, Jena, as you heard the message and we wrapped up the series by talking about the path to building a future church and how that path is called faith and how future faith will build the future church. And we talked about a few aspects of future faith and what that looks like. But I'd just be curious, Jena, what stood out to you? What spoke to you? And let's have a conversation on that.
Yeah, I've got my notes here because I'm a paper note taker at church.
All my paper note people, give Jena some love in the comments. If that's you, I'm all digital, but Jena still uses paper.
No, I love these 4 points of what this future faith is. And I think the ones that really both reminded me and challenged me were first this point that future faith believes it before you see it. I'm going to say that again. Future faith believes it before you see it. And I know for me, I go in waves of this. I wish I was more steady and it was like, I always believe it before I see it, but that's just not the case. Some days, some weeks, some months, I struggle with that, and some I can believe it before I see it. But just this idea of, are you staying in the safety zone of your own control, or are you truly believing something that you can't see yet? It was really challenging to me, and especially this idea of God's past provision is the best predictor of future faithfulness. And as we were talking about this story of Elijah, and how he's like predicting rain is coming, which sounds crazy because they're in a drought, but he tells them, get ready. I think it's the king. He tells the king, like, go get something to eat because rain's coming. And so, which I think is funny. He tells the king to go get something to eat. And then Elijah goes,
leave me alone. Go eat a sandwich.
Which I'm like, all right, whatever. But so Elijah tells the king, go get something to eat. And Elijah goes to Mount Carmel to pray about this, which was one of the first things that stood out to me, because if you read earlier on in this chapter, you see what happens at Mount Carmel. And there's this huge moment where God shows up in Elijah's life on Mount Carmel.
We're talking about 1 Kings 18.
Yes.
Yeah.
There's a huge moment where God shows up before this rain prediction even happens. So when Elijah is predicting the rain, he goes back to Mount Carmel, which I think for me is such a good reminder to go back to where God has showed up in your life before. Like when I am struggling to believe and see for the future and what could be, that reality that's different than what I see now. If I go back and remind myself of where God has shown up in my life, it fuels my faith to keep believing for the things I can't see.
Yeah.
And I just had to stop there and actually yesterday remind myself of where God has shown up in my life.
Yeah, I think that's a really interesting observation. I should have taught on that. But, just this idea that he goes to Mount Carmel, and if you're familiar with the entirety of that chapter, 1 Kings 18, Mount Carmel is like this sacred spot. This is the spot God showed up. This is the spot God intervened. It was the space that Elijah saw God's power and provision in a profound and new way. So yeah, when he's in a moment of desperation, 3.5 years of no rain, not a cloud in the sky. That's a really cool observation that, yeah, Elijah, what does he do? He goes back to the very place he saw God move before because he believed that God was about to move again.
Which, I mean, for me, as we're praying about a home for Canvas, I feel like I need to go back to Buena Vista Park.
Yeah.
Because that's where I feel like God showed up for us.
Yeah, Buena Vista Park for us, was for sure before we moved to San Francisco. We went to the top of the park and overlooked the city, and it was just like this sacred space where that's where we felt like God's called us, not through San Francisco, but to San Francisco, and our lives changed forever. Yeah.
So I feel like for those who are struggling to believe for a future they can't see right now, I would say, where do you need to go back to? What's your Mount Carmel? What do you need to remind yourself of how God has shown up in big ways before in your life? How can you go back to that space? Oh, wow.
Come on, somebody. I had to hit the applause button right there. That's so good. I think that's awesome, Jenna. I think this, like, where is that moment or moments that God showed up in your past? Because, like, man, there's going to be times in your future you're being invited to step into something new, and you need to remember God's past provision if you're going to trust God's future faithfulness.
Otherwise, we're just going to drift back to what's in our own control. And it's so easy to do. I can think of like 2 things in our life right now where it's so easy for me to just drift back to that. But if I can remember what God has done and how he has provided and shown up, it's going to fuel me in those areas where it's really hard for me to see a different reality.
Yeah. So what does that look like then, I guess, for someone? You're like, go back to your Mount Carmel, go back to that space where God provided in your past. Like, I think at a high level, that's awesome. And I think inspirational. What does that look like for somebody tonight when they get off work and they like feel like God's moving them forward somewhere, or they're believing God to do something in their life in the future? And you're like, okay, here's what going back to your Mount Carmel looks like. What does that look like to you, Jenna?
Well, one thing I did this past week in our women's Bible study on Wednesday night is one of the questions we talked about is just writing down God's blessings. And even writing things like, I have a family in the city, was a huge reminder. So I feel like sitting down and actually writing things out so you can see big or small where God has shown up in your life before. I think that's a very easy and practical thing that anybody can do right now.
Yeah. And I've heard of even small groups here at Camus. One that comes to mind that they wrote down all the prayer requests of their group throughout the years. And they actually like looked back to see how God answered so many of those prayer requests, or like God answered, but not in the way they thought or whatever. Like they were able to see God's past provision. It was this really cool moment for them to just reflect on like the goodness and provision of God.
Yeah.
So that might be like a really good takeaway if you're listening here today and you feel like you're in a season where God's leading you to take a step of faith and you're terrified about it, or you're being stretched beyond your comfort zone. You're being stretched beyond your own strength or understanding. Like maybe the best way to move forward is to first go backwards, right? Go back to that place, go back to your Mount Carmel, go back to that moment that God provided and start telling yourself that story again. It's going back to that moment where, for myself, I could think of like where I'm going, God, I feel called to this city. I have no idea how this is going to work. It's the most expensive city in the country, but I feel like you're leading me to start a church, and Jenna and I to start a church. So God, I need you to provide. And then the very next day we get a phone call from another pastor who would eventually take us on and pay our salary and get us out here. An amazing miracle. So whenever I'm worried about God's future faithfulness, I go back to that moment of God's past provision. And it's just interesting. I also think, I wonder if this is why, I don't know, like like if you talk to people who experience miraculous things, like they can tell you all the stories of how God has done this before.
Yeah.
And I wonder if like for some of us, if the reason you haven't experienced the miraculous in your life is like because you haven't given God the stage or opportunity to actually provide for you. But you think about it, like every time you allow God to provide for you, that's not only going to help you in that present moment, but that's going to actually help your future self when you're needing a good story to help you move to the next thing God is calling you to. You're never going to get that story if you never even take a step.
Oh,
So I think that's really good. I think that's really good. Where is your Mount Carmel? How do you go back to God's past provision as a predictor of God's future faithfulness? I feel like that's for somebody. Hey, if that's speaking to you, go ahead and give an amen or a hand clap or an emoji in the comments and let us know, or let us know what you think about that. Like, how do you take that next step? What does it look like for you to fuel your faith for the future? Is it by remembering the past of God's past provision, or maybe it's something else? Let us know in the comments, and we'd love to put it out on the screen.
Yeah. So that was definitely the first part that really stood out to me. The second part was this third point of future faith is persistent faith. In verse 43 of this story, Elijah tells his servant to go back and look for a cloud 7 different times.
Had to be annoying.
Oh man, if I was that servant, I think around time 4, I'd be like, "Are you kidding me, man?"
Yeah.
7 times. And again, remembering the context, this is a 3-year drought. So the fact that he's like, "I'm gonna go look for a cloud again," I just would have lost all hope. But Elijah didn't give up. He sent his servant back 7 times. And you talk about how 7 in the Bible means completion or perfection, and how you challenge us, don't stop short of what God can do to stay safe in what we can do, which I feel like, again, is such a good reminder for me, because it's so easy to stop short when I am in control. But to be persistent and not give up, I feel like you have to have a community around you that views things the same way, because it's so easy to find people to be like, no, play it safe. But to be persistent and not give up when you are having future faith over something you can't yet see.
Yeah. No, absolutely. I think it's incredibly inspiring to see like Elijah, and also we got to give his servant some love, right? Like the servant kept going back.
He still did it.
He wasn't seeing what Elijah was seeing, but he was willing to trust that his leader was seeing something.
Oh, which
right?
I think is also such a good perspective from the servant's point of view. He trusted the people around him.
Yeah.
Even when he couldn't see it.
Yeah. No, I think that's a good thing to add on there. Yeah, you could do a whole message on the faithfulness of the servant, because I focused more on Elijah yesterday, but yeah, the servant was the one who had to run back. He was the one who had to keep going back and then reporting to his boss, hey, there's nothing there. Then he goes back 7 times. I mean, yeah, what a good reminder for us. Like, whose voices are you allowing to lead you that maybe see things that you don't see? I think that's a good community application, a relationship application. I can't tell you how many times we've met people who, just, gosh, they're trying to navigate life alone.
Yeah.
And they're like, why do I keep hitting walls? It's because like you can't see everything, and you need someone around you that sees what you don't see. But also in your relationship with God, like, what does it look like when God says, go again, go again, go again? And you're like, can you trust that God just senses it? He sees something you don't see.
Yeah.
God sees behind your situation. He sees behind your struggle. He sees behind the circumstance or limitation. He sees behind it. And he is inviting you into something bigger, but you got to trust. You got to go again.
Yeah.
You got to go again.
Be persistent in your faith.
Absolutely. Hey, Giselle, I saw what you said there. You said, I always go back to the moment when God showed me a miracle in my life. And when I get discouraged, I go back and remember what he did for me, and then remind myself that God can do it again.
That's so good.
Yeah, I love this mantra. If God did it then, God can do it again.
You know who that reminds me of?
I know.
Oh, Veronica.
From
Kenya.
From Belwat Project in Kenya. Absolutely.
She always says, God will do it.
Yeah.
God will do it.
Absolutely. Yeah. So there was Veronica Mumby. She oversees an orphanage in Kenya that we support here at Canvas. And she has story after story after story of God's miraculous provision. And she really lives with one mantra, and that is God can do it.
And I think that is truly because she keeps going back to Mount Carmel on her hands and knees.
Absolutely. And then she keeps going and looking for clouds.
Yeah.
Like she never stops believing that God is going to provide. It's almost like, I'll be honest, at times it's annoying. At times, like my type A logical brain with Veronica will be like, Veronica, we need to be practical, like we need to do this. And she's like, nah, God will do it.
She knows that God has provided and he has more in store.
Absolutely. And she proves my limited thinking, right, wrong. She basically shows that God knows things that I don't know. And he sees things that we don't see. And she's just banked her life on that.
Yeah.
If God did it, then God could do it again. Like I maybe some of you right now, you're listening and you're afraid to step into whatever God is inviting you to step into. Maybe right now, that's what you need to pause. You need to say this out loud. If God did it, then God can do it again. Come on. If you're watching right now, say it with me. If God did it, then he can do it again. All right. If God did it then he can do it.
I needed to say that right now. Woo, that's good.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And I'm just believing for somebody watching today that that God's future faithfulness is already moving ahead of you and already providing for you, already opening doors for you, already paving the way.
Yeah.
But at the same time, you got a role to play in that. Like I think
persistent.
You got to be persistent. You got to go. You got to keep showing up. And if it's just a small cloud that shows up, size of a man's hand, like that was enough.
Yeah.
That was enough because Elijah was convinced that little is much when God is in it.
Oh, yeah.
Little is much when God is in it, and little can become much in your life. So it just might be a little cloud in your life, a little cloud of hope in your marriage, a little cloud of an opportunity at your job.
Yeah.
It may not be the dream yet. It may not be everything you hope for yet, but it is a small cloud rising. And it's so important to remember, like, little is much when God is in it.
Woo! Yes. Amen. That's
awesome.
Good.
Awesome. Yeah, no, I think that's so good. I think there's a couple good takeaways there. Go back to your Mount Carmel, go back to God's past provision because it's the predictor of his future faithfulness, and then just keep going again. Because like I think it wouldn't be honest if we would be like, hey, you're gonna go once and it's just gonna all come together.
Wouldn't it be great?
That'd be awesome.
Just not how it works.
It's usually not how it works. Usually it's not just you pray once and then boom. Like, I mean,
if it was that way, we wouldn't grow.
We wouldn't grow. I don't think our dependence would be very strong on God. I said this yesterday. I do think it's really important to understand, and it's not a popular thing in our culture today, but that is that, like, God's goal for us is not independence. Like, God's goal for us, and I know our little American selves shiver at this thought, but like, God's goal for you is not for you to be self-sufficient on your own. God's goal for you is to see what can be possible when you're completely dependent on God, to be wholly surrendered to God. Like, we were never created, humans were never created to do life alone. We were always created to do life with God.
Yeah. With God. And with people.
Yeah. And so, I think there's a lot of freedom when we stop trying to be independent and figure it all out. And I'm not saying independence is like bad. I'm not saying that. That's a different conversation, but I'm saying at the end of the day, like, I think God ultimately is inviting you into a life of total surrender, because it's in that space that you'll see that small cloud turn into a monsoon. You'll see God's favor in your life in a really beautiful and powerful way.
Yeah.
Well, yesterday was a big day also because it was our 9-year anniversary.
Oh, it was so much fun celebrating.
It was so much fun celebrating. It was so much fun eating Susie's cupcakes.
Yeah.
If you were there, you know what I'm talking about. Those cupcakes, I don't feel great this morning. I'll be honest. I had like 2 of them, and I think they're still sitting in my stomach.
My belly was like,
it was really, really good, but it was even better to just celebrate with the church.
And to dream about the future and to tell them what's on our heart and where we're going.
Yeah. Yeah. And we did a lot of reflection, as you do. I think anytime you, like, even in your own life, you turn another year older, you tend to reflect. And so as Camus turned 9, there's a lot of reflection about where we've come from, all the things God has done along the way, the people that we've been able to be a part of this journey with, and who, it's just like all the good and difficult and everything in between. We just found ourselves reflecting on it. But I thought it might be an interesting conversation and a helpful conversation for those that maybe are thinking like God is inviting them to start something new, to take a step of faith, maybe you're watching today and you're like, yeah, I feel like God is calling me to, I don't know, start a company or make this move in my life or whatever. You just feel like you're being invited into something new. I mean, we, 10 years ago, we're in that exact same spot. Yeah, we probably felt it more like 11 years ago that God was shifting, and then it took some time for us to get actually out here. But we really were in the season of God is inviting us into something profoundly new in our life.
A big change.
And I thought, let's talk about that. Yeah. Let's reminisce a little bit and talk about like, what did we learn that we think might be helpful to somebody who's in that moment for their own life, on the cusp of a change in their life? Like, what did we learn? I don't know if there's a first thing, like if somebody today was like, okay, I'm going to take this step of faith in my life, and you're like, okay, here's what I would like, here's the best advice I could give you. What comes to mind?
The first thing that came to mind was just getting the right people around you. When we took this step, we had such an amazing community of support surrounding us and pushing us and encouraging us and dreaming with us. So I feel like if you're in that phase in your life where you're ready to take a step out, getting the right people around you is so big. Like if we did this all over again, having that community support was a game changer.
Yeah, there's no way that we're able to start Canvas without the 23 other people that moved out here.
Yeah. And not just organizationally, like obviously they helped. Oh my gosh, they're our heroes to this day, but personally as well.
Well, and that's what I mean. I think personally is people who will encourage you, who will challenge you, who will walk with you, who will help you see things again, like we talked about, see things that you're not seeing, but are committed to the journey with you.
Yes.
And they're not people that just take life from you. I think I call them vampires, the people that they just like take your life away,
good Halloween analogy.
Yes. I'm talking about people who give life, not take it. Like, how do you get those people around you to walk with you in the journey you're on? I really do. I think it was Benjamin Franklin said something along the lines of like, those who go down with dogs rise with fleas, and I forget again who said it, but basically that you are the average of your 5 closest friends, who you become. And so I think that's it really, if you look at your 5 closest people, I guess it's probably worth asking, do I want to become like them?
Yeah.
Are they helping me move forward in my life? Does the trajectory I'm on and they're on, is it compatible? Because if you're like wanting to move forward in your life, but you have a group of friends who are just settling with where they're at, it's not going to work out.
Yeah.
It's not, I mean, there's studies out there that say like, if you want to lose weight and get in shape, then you need to hang out with people who prioritize health. Because if you do that, they're going to rub off on you.
Yeah.
They're going to rub off on you.
That absolutely makes sense.
So get the right people around you. I think that's huge.
What would you say?
Well, that's a good one. I would say this. I would definitely. Okay, the most practical thing that comes to my mind right now is if you're going to take a step of faith and you feel God's calling you into something new, you got to give yourself a deadline.
Yeah. Yep.
I think you got to give yourself a deadline. Ugh. Like if, and I'm talking like you got to circle a date on the calendar in big red permanent marker. Say like, I'm moving this day. I'm quitting this day. I'm starting that thing. I'm working out. I'm whatever the thing is that you feel like God is inviting you to do next. Like, you got to circle a date on the calendar. If you're going to go there. I mean,
otherwise it probably won't happen.
I don't think people are accidentally successful. I don't think people just like, whoops, I accomplished my goals. I think there is an intentionality behind every successful endeavor. And I think it happens when people are willing to create urgency. Because I do think that's the benefit of a deadline is that it creates urgency.
Yeah.
And you need urgency.
Yeah. Otherwise, then it's life. A million things will come up and prevent you from getting there.
Yeah.
There will always be a reason why not to do something.
Oh, 100%. You are going to have more reasons not to do the thing that you feel God's calling you to do than to do it.
Yeah.
Like we had plenty of reasons not to move to San Francisco, not to start a church. I was 25. I couldn't even grow a beard.
Little babies.
I was just a little guy. And I'm starting a church, and I'm doing it in one of the most unchurched cities in the country and the most expensive city in the country. I've never pastored a church on my own before. Like,
go big or go home. That's how we are.
There were just so many reasons not to do it. And I'm telling you, if you want to step out in faith and you're going to wait for to have no reasons not to do it, that's not going to happen. Because I would say this, like, things worth doing will never be easy. Things worth doing will never be simple. They will be complex. They will be hard. They will take a lot of blood, sweat, and tears. And if it doesn't require any blood, sweat, and tears, I think you maybe need to ask, is this really worth giving my life to?
Am I dreaming big enough?
Am I dreaming big enough? Like, is this bigger than me? Or is this just big enough for me, but way too small for God? So I think you got to have deadlines. And I think what's really interesting about this too is that we asked way more than 23 people to move to San Francisco. It was a lot. It was a lot. Maybe 40. Yeah, it was a lot. Every person, because we had a lot of people that said they were going to come and then didn't come. And everyone who said they were going to come but didn't come, the only difference, it wasn't age, it wasn't money, it wasn't anything else except this. They all had this in common. Every single one of them refused to commit to a date to move.
Oh, you're right.
Every single one of them refused to commit to circle a date on the calendar and say, this is moving day.
Yeah.
And so then they would go, maybe I'll do this. And it would get pushed out a little bit more. Maybe, okay, a month from now, then it got pushed out a little bit more. And some of y'all are listening right now and you relate to this because you've been pushing out a dream. You've been pushing out a calling. You've been pushing, you have that, you've written it in pencil. You've written the deadline in pencil because you're too scared to write it in permanent ink. But faith is in permanent ink, right? Like pencil, if you're going to erase it and keep circling new dates, that's not faith. But faith is circling it in permanent marker, like the big fat kind.
And let's say even if you got it wrong, if you're a few days late, a few months late, at least you did it.
Yeah.
At least you tried. You put it out there.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And you'll learn way more even from that than you would by not trying at all.
Exactly.
Like, you learn from success. You learn even more from failure. You learn nothing from doing nothing.
Yeah.
Right. Like you do have to circle the date, make the move, pack the bags,
whatever it is,
put in the notice,
launch the website.
So, I guess for somebody here, it's like, what date do you need to circle? Because dreams without deadlines are daydreams. And dreams without strategies are nightmares, right? So like dreams without deadlines are daydreams. Dreams without strategies are nightmares. Like you got to have a deadline. You got to have a strategy still. I'm not saying like, hey, like circle a date and don't think about it. No, do your strategy because dreams without strategies is a nightmare.
Yeah.
And some of you have worked for bosses that have these dreams and no strategy and you're ripping your hair out. So you know what I'm talking about. But dreams without deadlines, it's a daydream. You're never actually going to get it done because you are not willing to circle it in permanent marker. So that's what I would say. Anything else for you?
Just continue to celebrate the small wins and have fun.
Yeah.
I think looking back, especially in the beginning, it was a lot, but we had so much fun.
Yeah. Yeah. I think part of the joy of starting a church at 25 is you're pretty naive.
Yeah.
You're pretty naive, right? When you're 25 and you're like, I'm going to start a church. Like, and I don't know why. I guess I sounded like that at 25, but you're pretty naive. And sometimes when they say ignorance is bliss, and sometimes it's not, but sometimes it is, sometimes what you don't know is actually okay. It helps you a little bit.
Yeah.
But maybe that's why it's harder the older you get to make big moves, because when you're young, you're a little more ignorant. When you get older, you know what it might cost you a little bit more. But when you don't take yourself so seriously and you have joy in the process,
remember to have fun.
It's so important. It's really, really so important. Have fun. Life is short, man. Don't do something that you hate.
And it truly is about the journey and not the destination. And I think having fun on the journey is going to make it that much more enjoyable. Even when it's hard and you're giving it everything you have, stop and remember to celebrate.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it was Marcus Aurelius a 1,000 years ago. He said something along the lines like, the obstacle is the way. Like, so it's this idea that, that I translate that to say, like, hey, the struggles, the battles, the journey is the point. And so we tend to get really obsessed about destinations. We're like, when am I gonna get there, and how do I get there as fast as possible? We want to Amazon Prime our purpose in our life, and it just doesn't work that way. But I think there's this, like, the journey is the point.
Yeah.
And I think those who reach the destination that in the best way are those who can enjoy the journey the most. If you obsess about destination and neglect the journey, you're going to miss the very thing that the journey was there to teach you.
Absolutely.
And so, I would say, like, to your point, enjoy the journey that you're on, and don't take yourself too seriously.
Yeah.
We say that all the time. Like, we take God seriously so we don't have to take ourselves so seriously.
It relieves so much pressure.
It does. You're going to fail. You're going to make some goofy mistakes, but you're also going to succeed, and you're going to get where you need to go if you keep going, if you keep moving, if you keep, being persistent and looking for that small cloud. I just think, man, you're going to get where you want, but you got to enjoy the journey.
Yep.
And so if you're here and you're going, gosh, like, I feel like a small cloud is rising and God is doing something new and taking me somewhere new and inviting me into something new, then I think these are probably a few good places. I'm sure we could add to it, but I think this idea of get the right people around you.
Yep.
I mean, to be totally honest, if you get the right people around you and you invite them in your journey, you could almost, like, forget the other two things because you'll get where you want to. I truly believe that if you get the right people around you, you will get where you need to go.
Yeah.
But these other two things will help.
Yeah.
Circle the date on the calendar. Make a deadline. Urgency, healthy urgency is your friend. It works for you, not against you. And then last but not least, have fun. Enjoy the journey. Enjoy the process.
Yeah.
You'll eventually make it to the destination.
All I could think of during that last part was Mandalorian. This is the way.
This is the way. Is that what I didn't get into that show. I might have
talk about this. That makes me so upset.
We're going to fight live on YouTube if we talk about The Mandalorian, because I just did not, I wasn't.
We don't need to talk about it.
Okay. We'll move on. So, hey, I think we'll wrap up with that. Hopefully you found something there, a nugget or two that was helpful for you today on the For Monday podcast. We just love so much having these conversations with you, and we hope that you love them as well. Hey, next Monday.
Oh no, we have
some bad news.
But amazing news.
It's sad but amazing news. It's sad for our community, but amazing for us. So we have the opportunity. What are we doing, Jenna?
We're going to Disneyland.
We're going to Disneyland next Monday through Wednesday. Going to Disneyland, and we're going to be trick-or-treating with Finley. It's going to be awesome. I've never done Disney at Halloween. Halloween at Disney.
Great.
If you've done Halloween at Disney, let me know in the comments if it's awesome.
I'm
sure it's Disney. It's going to be great. I just want to eat churros. But the reason we're telling you this is because that means next Monday we will have no For Monday, sadly. But
people can get together with their community and talk about it.
Yeah, absolutely. Find your community, have conversations about the future of the church, do your own For Monday.
Yep.
But we won't be online next week, unfortunately. We're just going to be eating churros and creating some great memories.
That also means
with our daughter.
Following Monday, we will have a lot to talk about.
We're going to have a lot to talk about, and we want you to be a part of it. So the best way to make sure you're in the loop is to hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. And again, leave us a 5-star review wherever you listen to podcasts if you're listening to this later on. But we are so grateful for all of you. Lucas, I see you again. Great show today. I'm sure it's a great show, man. You just won some free coffee early on. But hey, to everyone else who joined and jumped in the conversation, Matthew, I saw you jumping in there. Anna, thank you so much for your thoughts as well. Jackie, I see you. Thank you so much for being a part of the For Monday today. We can't wait to see y'all next time and continue this great conversation in 2 weeks. Have a great rest of your week, everybody.
Bye.